Hey, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Untitled Media Podcast. This is episode 161. So, this year seems to be the year of the multiverse. We're going to get some multiverse elements in The Flash, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we like doing out-of-the-box concepts here. So this week, we're going to do a really fun idea that we came up with of if we had to, in a multiverse universe, so to speak, how would we recast the Marvel Cinematic Universe using DC Cinematic Universe actors? So, a little tricky at first because there's significantly less DC movies to work with. But I think at the end of the day, we came up with some really fun choices for this, for a what if, so to speak. And hopefully we deliver more than What If did. Josh, how you doing tonight?
I'm chilling, my dude. It's on my second day off in a row after a really rough weekend. Apparently, there's a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans in Tennessee for no stinking reason.
They have to cheer somebody in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, but they were playing at the Titans here in Nashville, so it was like insanity all day. It was fine.
You get a whole bunch of Bengals fans coming out of the woodwork. I'll be honest, though. Of the teams left in the playoffs, the Bengals are probably the one that I'm pulling for the most, just because they feel like they don't belong there at all.
Oh, yeah.
And also, this is a movie podcast, I know, but how BS is the overtime rule? Like, the Bills lost because of a coin toss. That should not be the case. That being said, Bills are going to win a Super Bowl within the next few years. Josh Allen is legit. Like,
that man, some of the throws that he was making in that game, like, it's kind of unfortunate because Chiefs could just walk it down the field, like, no problem. But, like, Josh Allen was working his butt off. Like,
yeah, he's going to have to rehab his back this offseason from carrying his entire team, basically. Like, don't get me wrong. I actually, as a Broncos fan, I don't even mind the Chiefs. I could see Mahomes winning a lot, but I'm looking forward to more Mahomes versus Josh Allen because that matchup was so good. That being said, like, having a coin toss basically determine the outcome of the game is a little janky. That being said, I don't want 7 overtimes like it could be in college sports because definitely have done that before. But overall, a darn good weekend of football. Like, we don't talk about sports a lot, but every single playoff game was awesome. And Brady's gone.
Except for the only bad game that was boring to watch was the Niners-Packers game, which, as a Bears fan, absolutely, screw the Packers.
Insert Aaron Rodgers is immunized to winning type meme that took over everywhere.
The one I've seen is that the Niners are the one that own Aaron Rodgers, so that's a lot of fun, like that.
I will say though that someone was like, all right, so this means Rodgers retiring. One, I think Rodgers and Brady are about to enter a game of chicken of, well, if you retire, I won't retire because I want the spotlight when I retire. Yeah. I think if Rodgers won the Super Bowl, he'd retire. Given that he didn't, he's coming to my Denver Broncos. Mark my words. He's gonna pull up.
He's leaving the Packers.
Yeah, he's pulling Peyton Manning. Except I don't think he'll be as successful as Peyton Manning. But
I don't know. He's really talented.
He is.
He's talented.
Josh, you watching anything besides football?
Okay, so episode 4 of Peacemaker. I'm on board. Let's go. Okay, I was not expecting to get my heartstrings pulled like that. Episode 8 of Demon Slayer. My jaw was open most of the episode because it's so incredible, and like they're blending hand-drawn and computer animation like really, really well, and it's kind of like scary and beautiful. And then the one I talked to you about. I finally watched Crimes of Grindelwald. Because you were right to give me crap for this. Like, I can't have an opinion on the Fantastic Beasts series if I hadn't watched all of the movies up so far. And I'm gonna tell them what I told you, in that there's some really good stuff in there, and like that opening jailbreak scene is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll give him credit on that one.
Yeah, I'm super down. Johnny Depp as Grindelwald, pretty good. I'm pretty down for it.
See, that's one I absolutely defend. I'm not the biggest Johnny Depp as an actor fan. I don't like a lot of his stuff. But I don't mind what he's going for his Grindelwald. It's the script around him that was the issue. But his performance, he's absolutely trying his best.
And if you liked Queenie at all, get ready to absolutely hate her because she's stupid.
Yeah, she was a ditz before, but now she's an idiot.
Like complete idiot. Like, literally, he gives in that last scene. Like, Grindelwald basically says, like, we're gonna put purebloods are gonna put everybody else under their boot, including non-magicals. And she then turns to Jacob, who shouldn't be in this movie, and is like, "See, he's gonna give us what we want." Like, no.
Yes, listen to the wizard Nazi.
No. Like, no, Queenie, that's not what he said, you moron. Oh my gosh, and Newt is still, I really like him as a character. I really enjoy when he's on screen. I enjoy him as a person, as far as, like, I love to see him interact with animals, and I love that kind of, guys, not all monsters. What does Tina say? You never met a monster you couldn't love. I was like, yes. However, this has Star Wars prequel syndrome so hard in that Newt shouldn't be the main character. This is, like, it needs to be Credence's story. It has to be. Because the whole story revolves around Credence. Like, it doesn't make sense for him to not be the focus. It would be like if we did Harry Potter movies and instead focused on Ron's perspective the whole time. It just doesn't, no, not even Ron. Let's focus on, like, Draco's perspective. Seamus's perspective the whole time. Like, someone who's, like, in the plot, but not, like, in the plot. So it's fine.
And that's also nothing to bring up the fact of it breaks its own established canon of, hey, we can apparate into Hogwarts. No, you can't. There's a reason why Hogwarts is the safest place on Earth, is because you can't just apparate into the school. And also, why is McGonagall a full-grown adult here when in canon she hasn't been born yet? And also, we're going to spoil, at least I'm going to because it's been out long enough. What the heck is that twist at the end? Shocker! Dumbledore has a secret brother that's never once been mentioned. I'm going, oh god, is this Uncharted 4?
Yeah, I hate it. But, like, also, like, the name is similar enough to his brother who shows up in the Deathly Hallows books or movies that I was like, wait, so they saying that he's Creed? Wait, hold on. And, like, went and looked through and was like, no, that's not. So it literally is just an entirely, like, different brother. Also, that Phoenix is totally Fox. You can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I thought Dumbledore has said Fox has been in his family for a long time.
Yeah.
And no, Phoenixes can't die. No, Phoenixes don't really die. They, like, die and come back. I'm just like, well, what happens if you impale one? Like,
no, that's not how that works. Sorry.
I've always kind of wondered how you kill them.
Also, wizards don't use toilets.
But
even though they have massive bathrooms.
Yeah, yet Chamber of Secrets revolves around a gigantic poop tube.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Oh, man. Book-wise, I actually just finished reading Chamber of Secrets. Doing the audio book on that one. So I've done Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, whatever, and Chamber of Secrets. And so far, I think I like the movies better than the books on those two particular ones. Mainly because they expedite a lot of things. There's that whole bit in Sorcerer's Stone towards the end with the dragon that's like, it's cool, and it tells us a lot about Hagrid as a person, but not necessarily anything that we didn't know already.
Or
nothing. Yeah.
They cut out that one challenge entirely from the book of, hey, pick which potion is poison and which one's the one that'll let you go through the fire door. I'm going, this doesn't really need to be here. There doesn't need to be this many challenges. Streamline it.
Chambers, and the Chamber of Secrets kind of does that as well, where the movie at least expedites a lot of what's going on, but not in a way that it skips over anything. I have a feeling, and you could probably confirm this, is that, let's see, because they started making the movies on this next book, on The Prisoner of Azkaban, basically. When The Prisoner of Azkaban was out, that's when they started production on the first movies.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling this is where things are going to start changing a little bit. After I watched the Harry Potter special, and some of the director of the Deathly Hallows ones will kind of like explain some of his changes, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. I hear what you're saying on that. Like, so I'm kind of, this is an interesting perspective to come in, where somebody who saw the movies first and doesn't necessarily have as much respect for the books yet, having that opinion, seeing the difference, and so far liking the movies more. But then again, movies are visual medium, so it's going to be easier for me to fall in love with those better. But
Yeah.
Finishing Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in a duology I've been reading, and then I've got a new book that's coming out in a week. Fifth book in a series that I'll be reading that. And then I haven't told you this. So there's a giant used bookstore, like down here, that has 2 locations. Okay, like I'm talking, like I could probably get the entire Redwall series, for maybe $20, because it's like $1 each and stuff like that. So
wow.
I've always had this desire to like watch some of these read some of these young adult books that series are based off, like Hunger Games, like this Divergent, like Percy Jackson, just to see, because I mean, obviously if they made movies about them, they should be good, right?
Percy Jackson got greenlit today.
Yeah, I saw that. I was actually pretty happy about that. Like, I'm excited to see what we do with that.
Logan Lerman is now Zeus.
Oh Lord, I mean, he's basically almost old enough at this point. Jeez. But the Hunger Games was like $1. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up and read it. Why not? What could go? It's $1. Come on. So I'll be starting that here in a few weeks too. Man, I'm like reading like 3 books at a time right now.
And then I can say the one thing from my favorite line from Chamber of Secrets. Reading. I didn't know you could read.
I love that. I love that line so much. Oh,
that's one of those that's like not in the book, but it makes it so much better being in the movie.
So good. There's just wait. Hell, did you watch anything this week?
No.
Or is it just me?
I've been playing. I've been going through all the Uncharted's before the movie, so I just finished the 3rd one last night. I've been going through it. Just finished the 3rd one. I always have the same exact experience on all my playthroughs for Uncharted 3. I start playing it, I get the first third of it going, I'm going, wow, this is better than I remember. And then right around the 60% mark, I'm going, oh God, yeah, I remember why I hate this game. Maybe not hate, but God, does Uncharted 3 drag like nobody's business. Like, anything with the boat goes on way too long. For some reason, once you get to like the final location, there is one of the steepest learning curves ever for villains, of like you get in a rhythm of like, okay, this is how I take out the bad guys, and then all of a sudden you need freaking RPGs and little heavy duty weapons to take out simple bad guys, and I'm just going, why? And then those characters disappear for the rest of the game. I'm going, the final fight isn't even this bad. Like, what the heck? And also still, the mechanics are just wonky. Like, you'll hit circle to dive for cover, and he'll just, like, completely miss and get shot and going, the corner's right there. Hide behind that. Just, it's not that complicated. Like, I can't wait to get to the 4th one, which I'm waiting until this weekend when I can play the remastered version. That's just so, it's more fluid and just, it understands you better of, oh, you're clearly going for cover here. Like, I like 3 enough. There's not an Uncharted that I dislike, but it's definitely my least favorite. So I've gone through all the 3 now. Now I'm just waiting until this weekend to play the new PS5 remaster of 4, which I don't expect will be different other than a higher frame rate. But 4 is the best one, so I always look forward to going back to playing that.
Oh, frame rate. I'm still laughing at, like, when you randomly got suggested one of my old videos, and it was, like, in 480p. I was like, oh, dude, that hurts. That just hurts.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing Josh has been reading lately. because our
Hey.
first news topic is book-related. Now, Josh, did you actually ever read any of the Lord of the Rings?
Oh yeah, I've read all three all the
Okay,
way through,
I've
and I
always
read The
tried
Hobbit.
to read Fellowship, and I always get like halfway through, and it's I don't know. I just have never been through it. But thankfully, you don't need to read any of the books for the new Amazon Lord of the Rings series, now called The Rings of Power. Which, not gonna lie, that's a pretty good title. Am I still nervous about the show? Oh, absolutely. They released this like teaser of like this is what the title looks like, which I was really surprised to find out that was practically filmed. It's not CG or anything. Like they actually, it's all like carved woodworking and everything else. I'm like, that's really cool. And the show will supposedly be like the rise of Sauron. I'm going, wasn't that a video game at one point, like a prequel game? But maybe I'm just imagining that because there used to be a whole slew of Lord of the Rings games.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
The picture looks really, really cool. And the teaser was, for the most part, cool. But I'm not going to lie. I'm sure you're in the same camp here, Josh. When anybody ever talks about, like, the rings of power were forged, I'm so used to it being Cate Blanchett's voice that when it's not, I'm just like, this just feels like imitation here. You're not the voice you're supposed to be. I know it's set in the past, but, I mean, shouldn't you be able to have Lady Galadriel? Because they live, like, forever. It was a cool teaser. I like the name a lot. I'm still kind of... I'll be cautiously optimistic about this. But I do still have some concerns about, like, some of the statements that they've said in the past about, like, what this show will be like. And I'm worried that this is just going to be their attempt at Game of Thrones with the Lord of the Rings skin. Because they're like, we wanted to be more adult in our programming, going... You do realize Lord of the Rings was originally meant for children and teens. Like, I don't really want a sex scene in Lord of the Rings, because that's not really what Tolkien originally envisioned. And I don't know. Like, there's this thing of, like, yes, the original Lord of the Rings was PG-13, but it was originally more a children's story. So I don't need it to be adultified. And Amazon tends to skew adult, which is fine. The Boys is great. Invincible is great. I don't need R-rated Lord of the Rings. Am I overthinking this, Josh?
No, not at all. I agree. The teaser was cool, and finding out it was all practically shot is like, I have feelings about that. It's cool, but at the same time, I rolled my eyes a little bit because I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like when somebody shoots on film these days. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be shot on 9mm film. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool.
9mm? You mean like 35 or 70?
Yeah. You know what I mean. But still, I was like, so why? What's the justification? Like, so the only thing I can think of is that they're trying to be more practical with this and not rely so heavily on the CGI, which is what one of my major issues with the Hobbit movies was.
Especially Hobbit.
Yeah, like, because I was kind of already a little bit checked out, but then Legolas started Mario hopping up falling rocks, and I was like, I'm good. I don't need to watch this anymore. Fine. As far as Rings of Power goes, it's fine. Sure. It's a cool title, I guess. The Rise of Sauron could be potentially pretty interesting.
That would be an even better name, though.
Yeah, the Rise of Sauron or something. I just, or Impending Doom. But I thought that was funny. I guess I'm the only one over here. But I just like it's fine, and I agree. I think
Impending Doom.
There you go. That was funny, man.
My brain.
Yeah, no, it's just weird to hear that speech come from somebody else's mouth. And I think we're going to have to get used to that with this series. To my knowledge, no actors are returning.
Also, no actors that I know are in this show.
Of course not. So we'll see. I just... the way, and like, tying them wanting to do a more Game of Thronesy thing, and then putting in the view of that speech of like, these rings went here, these rings, I was like, instantly could see the Game of Thrones connection of being like, oh, they think power is like political power. Oh no, that's all right. Let's find again. We'll have to wait to find out how this ends up going, but like, while the teaser was cool, not convinced. Show me an actual trailer, then we'll talk.
Yeah, and I don't know. The premise has always been interesting enough, but not like I must watch, which is weird considering to me the original Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies of all time and like a landmark in filmmaking and a yearly tradition for me. I have to watch it because it's just so good. But maybe I think part of it is also the Lord of the Rings brand has been diluted thanks to the Hobbit movies, and I'm just going, I don't feel the urgency that I need to see it. Again, the first trailer could be amazing, blow us out of the water, but I think there was more interesting stories to tell here, because tell me you wouldn't be super excited if instead of this show, we were getting a Shadow of Mordor show of like a direct, like in between Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Actually, no, that takes place right before Hobbit, I believe. But like almost like Lord of the Rings meets Witcher. You find one lone outcast soldier who you see the story through his eyes, and you get more of the world, so to speak. Because I really enjoy both Mordor games. I think is what Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, I believe is the two names. I really enjoy those.
There's just better stories, I think, to be out there, and more like interesting stories. Like, could you imagine if they did a show about the dwarves and about them mining deep into this mountain, and then it turns out that they're in Moria, and then you like halfway through figure out it's Moria and go, oh no, so then you, the viewer, are like, they're gonna unearth a Balrog at some point, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. I just, there's really interesting stories to be told here. You don't even have to touch the Silmarillion. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's still like this. So what's really funny is you couldn't read the books for Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. I did. I could not get through the Silmarillion. It is so boring and so stupid.
If I remember right, that was like partially written by Tolkien, right? And then like finished by one of his kids. So maybe it's his writing issue.
That's all I can think. I don't care because it's not necessarily that big of a deal. But again, there's just some. I feel like there's more interesting stories. This almost has, and I'll wrap this up like this. Rings of Power feels like Lord of the Rings is going back to the same well the whole series has been about, kind of like Star Wars going back to Palpatine. And I'm not 100%
suddenly somehow Sauron has returned.
Yeah, basically.
So we often mock that Lord of the Rings was super, super long, big sweeping epics that ended up like 3.5 to 4 hours. Well, you're going to have to add a new movie to that list of epically long lengths if these reports are true, because Matt Reeves' The Batman movie will be close to clocking in at around 3 hours. With the end credits, which is supposed to be like 8 minutes of end credits, the movie is reportedly 2 hours and 55 minutes, with some people saying that they even screened like a 4-hour director's cut, and I'm going, I love the sound of this. I know some people are just like, why do we have such a long runtime for a first movie? Guys, this is longer than The Dark Knight Rises, a trilogy capper. This is like around the same runtime as Avengers Endgame, the culmination of a big story. Here's why I'm on board with it. One, I don't actually mind long movies. Like, I love Endgame. I love all of the Lord of the Rings. I'm okay with long movies, so long as the length is justified. This, to me, gets me more excited. If I wasn't more excited already for the Batman, I'm actually down for this because it implies a lot of world building on the part of Matt Reeves. Of not so much like catch up of like, well, we got to fill in a whole bunch of lore in here to make up for the quote-unquote lost ground that we have with the Batman character. No, it seems like he's got a lot of ideas that he wants to put into this world, and we're going to start off running, but also, like, I think old school detective movies had longer run times, so this will feel like a Zodiac, because we're already getting Riddler Zodiac vibes. So Zodiac's a long movie too. So if we take that approach here, lastly, before I toss it over to Josh, if this really is 3 hours, I love that even more because there's so much that we clearly haven't seen from this movie then, because the trailers really, from what we're hearing, are really only little bits, because that first trailer was when they said they had only filmed about 25% of the movie. And a lot of the trailers so far have focused on that first footage that we see. We get some stuff with the Riddler, but there's a lot that we're not seeing, like, you know, a certain court that could be behind everything, or a certain circus, or other characters or references. Josh, in general, what do you think about longer runtimes, and are you excited for a 3-hour Batman movie?
Yeah, I think it's... The runtimes is one of those things you have to kind of earn, and let it be justified, because, like, I think, in contrast, Lord of the Rings needs that runtime, because you can't just... A good fantasy movie can't just rush things.
Oh, isn't that right, Aragon?
Yeah. You can't just be like, all right, cool, so this thing is that thing, this is that, let's go. Yeah, we understand there's political intrigue here, but we don't care. Like,
Warcraft.
you can't just throw stuff at a wall and just go to town. Like, that's not how fantasy and comic book movies work. I mean, even like an Endgame being close to 3 hours is completely justified, because that is a cap of like 20 plus movies. So like, you have to really bring it home and really wrap everything together in a nice bow. Whereas this, we're opening a brand new world. This is going to be one of the starts of the new post Zack Snyder era. So it has to set up a lot of stuff. It has to, and even if it's not like world building setup as far as like the DC world building, even if it's just him and it takes him this long to solve a riddle, like solve the mystery, absolutely. Like, I'm okay with it, with Batman not solving the puzzle in 30 minutes or less. Like, I'm down with that. And I think, if anything, like you said, having those two trailers show not a lot of footage. I mean, I think altogether, I think we have maybe 4 or 5 minutes of footage total. Like, dude, there's so much of this movie we're not seeing. And it makes me excited, because I think of movies like Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home that barely showed us the first fourth of the movie. And then you have everything after that. So it's like, if I wasn't excited before, now I'm definitely excited for this movie. Like, God, dude.
Which,
there's
been some other Batman related stuff that like has come out, but isn't like necessarily individually enough to talk about for a news segment, but we can lump it in here. Of Michael Giacchino released the first bit of music from the movie. They released the main Batman theme, and oh my god, I've listened to basically nothing else since it's been released, because guys, he crushed it. Like, we know from the trailers, we've got the doom, 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 doom. I'm going, that sounds like Batman. But then you play the rest of the theme, and I don't know about you, Josh, but the music actually was more hopeful and uplifting than I thought it was. Like, oh, this has music term. It has movement to it. It has, I feel the waves of emotion that's being replicated here. I feel fear in certain points. I feel hope in certain points. Like, I felt so much listening to the Batman theme, and we're just going, oh my god, this music is going to be amazing. Like, I thought it was just going to be dark and gloomy. This has different styles, and it's so beautifully done. But then, for some reason, this doesn't happen to me because I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads. But apparently, before certain videos, they're showing ads for the Batman that are like a 2-minute clip of the movie. Have you heard about this yet, Josh?
No, I haven't.
So yeah,
That's
certain
crazy.
videos are showing like 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the movie as a clip. I've watched it, and I genuinely got pissed when it was done. So it's the scene in the trailer of like the car crashing into a funeral. It's basically what happens leading up to it. And Robert Pattinson's Batman doesn't say a word this entire time, but I'm literally on the edge of my seat the whole time going, this is tension, this is uncomfortable, and I love it. It's just tense and awkward, and I needed more of it. I was going, it's hard to describe, but I need it. I really, really need it. So honestly, we may have to come back to our best movie marketing campaigns when this movie's done, because so far, the Batman has not missed at all with the marketing, and the 3-hour runtime actually makes me more excited than less excited, because so long as the runtime is justified, perfectly fine. Like Endgame, long runtime, but I don't think there's a whole lot of scenes that I would cut out of Endgame. Spider-Man No Way Home, that's a long movie. I really can't think of any scenes that I would cut out of it, because I've seen so many times I know when to go to the bathroom, but after the certain point, you cannot leave. Once they go to Happy's apartment, you cannot leave the movie from then on out, basically.
Yeah, basically. That's the thing. I think a lot of people who are complaining will be like, oh, DC needs 3 hours to tell their story.
Can you not hold your pee?
I don't think people realize how long movies actually are. Like, and I don't know. The other thing, the last thing I wanted to say was about the theme, because I remember, I forget who, I heard somebody commentating it being like, I'm so tired of superhero themes not being dynamic, not having layers, not being like interesting to listen to. In reference to the Batman theme that we get in the trailers, like, because it really kind of is just a
like Jaws-esque, more or less.
Exactly. But then, dude, they released the full thing, and it is dynamic. It is, like you said, it's got movement to it. There's emotional layers you can feel through it. I'm excited about this movie. I don't know how I could get even more excited, and now I'm totally, as soon as we're done recording, going to go see if I can find that 2-minute clip.
I'll send it to you. I'll find it and send it to you. I do love that the music. I love that the music sounds suspiciously like Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes. Okay, you know what? You just imagine if this isn't a court movie. It's a Mask of the Phantasm.
Okay,
movie.
So. Funny that I have the red graphic up. I totally didn't intend this, but somebody took to Twitter and like just reskinned this and be a light blue, and they're like, imagine if the next movie's theme is blue and it's Mr. Freeze and all the marketing is blue instead of red. I'm just going, Mask of the Phantasm blue?
Blue and gray suit with
I
white
refuse
eyes?
to let the blue and the gray die. The blue and the gray will show.
Matt Reeves is just crazy enough to make it happen.
Yep. Well, chalk this one up to out of nowhere, but at the same time, when you have the energy of Apple, you can just kind of buy whatever you want. And if you want to buy a gigantic kaiju for your streaming service, you buy a gigantic kaiju for your streaming service, because we're getting a live-action Godzilla series for Apple TV Plus, and all 10 people in the world that actively watch Apple TV Plus are happy. This is bizarre to me, actually. I'm not gonna lie. One, really thought HBO Max would be doing something with this, because they did Godzilla vs. Kong and everything else. But on the flip side, I'm thinking it from the Kong perspective and not the Godzilla perspective, because Godzilla, legally speaking, is always in tricky water, because Godzilla is not an American property. If I'm right, anything Godzilla related has to go through Toho, and they have like limited contracts. Like, I think Godzilla vs. Kong was the end of the American contract currently. I could be wrong. We've got a friend that we could ask, but I know Josh doesn't really want to bark up that tree right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if after the Warner deal expired, Warner's like, sure, we'll keep doing Kong things. Godzilla, maybe not, because it's a little trickier financially. And then Apple's like, please, we only have Ted Lasso right now, and we're only so good on that. We can just buy up Godzilla, right? We could just buy up Toho if we wanted. This is a weird choice, but at the same time, Apple TV Plus desperately needs it because we bag on like HBO Max or Peacock. Apple TV Plus, the only reason it has any subscribers is because it comes free for certain Apple users. Like, other than that, I genuinely don't know why anyone would get it. I've heard good things about Ted Lasso, but one good show doesn't make me, as Disney Plus had just The Mandalorian, basically. But, like, Apple TV Plus, I'm still questioning why it exists at all, because Apple came so late into the streaming game with this, and they haven't made a lot of movies. They're like, hey, we just bought Charlie Brown. We're going, cool? You know, the culturally relevant movie that is Charlie Brown, whose last movie was 2017 by Blue Sky. That didn't get a sequel, even though it really, really deserved it, because that movie was way better than it had any right to be. But Apple, like, I can't decide if Apple's going all in or not in streaming or not. And if they're not, poop or get off the pot. And this seems like a big ploop, so to speak. Like, Godzilla is the big poop. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a lot of fish.
Yeah, I go back and forth because there's a few shows that I have seen trailers for and like ads for, besides Ted Lasso, that have looked interesting. Foundation being one of them, Dickinson being another one. But like, I like, they got Fraggle Rock over there, bro. Like, I don't know. I agree though. Like, at the end of the day, like a Godzilla show feels weird on Apple TV Plus. I don't know where else you go. Like, what is he gonna fight Ultraman? Like, what are we doing here? You know, like, because we've done King of Monsters, we've done Godzilla vs. Kong. Like, what story? I'm not to say that Godzilla has a limited catalog, but we've kind of covered quite a bit of it so far.
They're just going to remake Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, except Mechagodzilla was created by Apple. Actually, knowing Apple, they'd be like, Microsoft created Mechagodzilla.
It was created by the Metaverse. Cringe. It's little. I know intellectual properties is always a weird conversation. But it just feels weird for that kind of show to be on Apple TV Plus. I don't know what their budget would be. I don't know how this would. Do you get the same design as the movies? Do you change the design?
I would change the design. I wouldn't even keep the movies. I would make it its own continuity, just for freedom's sake.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just weird no matter which way you fold it.
See, I think it's also weird because it's Godzilla as a character, both physically and box office wise, it's too big for streaming. There's certain characters in the way you approach them that could work for streaming. Like, yes, even the MCU, who's made billions and billions of dollars, can still tell small, intimate stories like Falcon Winter Soldier is much smaller scale. That can be watched at home. Godzilla is a gigantic creature that you kind of want to see on the biggest screen possible, that I think lends itself to big, epic movies more so than serialized TV. The reason people watch Godzilla is to see gigantic monsters on the biggest screen possible and to see it just streaming at home. It would be like Peacock saying, we're going to do a live-action Jurassic Park TV series. Like, when you watch something at home, you're watching it more vertically, you're watching it horizontally, not vertically. Like, if you want to watch vertical things, you see them on the big screen. Yes, I know some people will be like, well, there's Camp Cretaceous on Netflix. That's an animated kid series. They don't have live-action dinosaurs on Peacock or Netflix because things of that size you want to see on a big screen. And I think it would take... I don't want to be like a Christopher Nolan in the situation of like, theater's the only way to go. But when you've got gigantic creatures like dinosaurs, like kaijus, like Pacific Rim creatures... Which, does this get rid of my potential Pacific Rim Godzilla crossover that I want someday? When you've got characters like those, they lend themselves better to big screens. I know streaming's dominating everything else, but I don't think Godzilla as a character meshes particularly well with streaming.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree. It's gonna feel like Street Sharks or like a Transformers TV show. Like
Yeah.
it would just feel campy and weird. So I don't think it's a good idea. But it's Apple TV Plus. They're gonna do what they want.
Now, you know what is a good idea, but also like the worst kept secret in video games? Respawn is doing a Jedi Fallen Order sequel, and everyone liked that as a Fallout meme there. I loved Fallen Order, but I also loved what it represented, because I remember when Fallen Order was just about to come out, the head of EA was just like, well, according to our studies, people really love online multiplayer games. They don't really care for single-player games anymore.
You're stupid.
Fallen Order just comes out and destroys sales, and he just goes, oh, crap. And then I felt like EA tried to sabotage Fallen Order by not marketing it as much or showing crappy footage, because I almost didn't hop on the Fallen Order bandwagon when it first came out because all the gameplay looked so generic. It looked because they kept showing that little tiny piece of the much broader game when Cal and BD1 take over the AT-AT, and you're just like, okay, we've seen this before, this is uninteresting. And you realize that's like 2% of the entire game, and this is a much bigger thing. So I loved what Fallen Order represented, of going big old middle finger to those bigwigs that are just like, oh no, people love microtransactions in multiplayer games. No, give me my Fallen Order, my Uncharted 4, give me my God of War, give me my single player stories. This is the biggest no-brainer. It's the only bankable Star Wars franchise in video gaming right now, because as some other news kind of came out today, this more or less kind of puts a nail in the coffin for a Battlefront 3 from EA and DICE, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because other studios can do first-person shooters, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, but it's a bad thing because Battlefront 2 had the greatest turnaround of any game I've ever seen. Honestly, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of the best Star Wars games ever, of where it started to where it is now. And they pulled support for it at the worst possible time. They're like, oh crap, Battlefield is doing terribly. Let's pull off all support for Battlefront and do Battlefield 2042, which has been a colossal mistake. And I'm going, just, it's not too late. Abandon your Battlefield, come back to it in a few years later, and go back to the thing that's actually making you money right now, which is Battlefront 2. But no, they just dropped that, and DICE is not making any more Battlefronts at all, which I think is stupid. But thankfully, Respawn, the people that did do Fallen Order and are doing Fallen Order 2, are doing a first-person shooter, which I'm going, cool. And also, I must have missed it, but Respawn made one of Josh's all-time favorite games with Apex Legends.
Yeah.
So
Respawn's a pretty good company, man. Like, and not just Apex Legends. I mean, in my opinion, is the best battle royale out there, but they're kind of lately that opinion has changed a little bit, but that's more because of content drops or lack thereof. But that's an issue you're going to run into with battle royales. Unfortunately, you're always having to keep it fresh.
Respawn did what I consider probably one of the more underrated games of this generation of both Titanfalls. I really like Titanfall 2. I really like Titanfall 2 a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, no, and the entire Apex Legends game is based in that lore, so we're constantly pulling from that. So it's pretty, and they've done so much revolutionary stuff game design wise, like having a ping system. It started with them in the battle royale. Like no other games had that at that particular moment. It's just like stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what kind of FPS they bring. I'm hesitant for them to just do another Battlefront, because I feel like you do need something fresh. You need something new, because Battlefront, while cool, is still not an FPS, and it's the reason I always struggled with it, because it is kind of clunky at times, and I do wish it had a more fluid motion, which is something you'll get from Respawn. Yeah, and as far as I'm very interested to see what kind of strategy game comes out of this as well. I have heard nothing about anything else on this.
Yeah, they just announced it. So Fallen Order 2, I'd imagine, is like a 2024 release, is my guess. And since they just announced the strategy game and the first-person shooter, that won't be for a while yet, like 2025,
Yeah.
2026 probably. But I also thought it was interesting that for the first-person shooter, they're bringing on one of the like producers or supervisors from the original 2 Battlefront games, which I'm going,
Nice.
oh no, don't give me that kind of hope. Now I saw somebody floating the idea around. I don't know if they go this route or not, but what if it's a game similar to a Republic Commando? Of you've got like a group of people on like a SWAT mission. I'm going, dude,
don't bring up Republic Commando for me, man. That game has so many awesome memories. Like being like a commando clone trooper was just one of the coolest things ever, and I can only imagine, especially now that they've expanded the canon so much, what all you could do with that. Like, dude, being like a bounty hunter hit squad or something like that, or like being able to do first person squad combat, do like a class based system, but like you have like 3 or 4 different storylines that you can run through with those classes. So like you have like bounty hunters, and you've got like a different classes of bounty. It's dude. It'd be like the old Republic MMO all over again, and I'd be so down.
Just resurrect 1313 and reshape it as a first-person shooter. We're all still sad about 1313. Curse you, Disney. But this is the first time that I felt hope in a while for the future of Star Wars gaming, because it felt like EA was just had a chokehold on it, and they're like, we pump out Star Wars games too. We're going, guys, you've done 3 games in 6 years. How is that fair? That's not cool, guys. Back in, 2005? We had like 5 or 6 Star Wars games just in 2005 alone. You got Republic Commando, the greatest game ever made with Lego Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith, a banger of a game right there. Battlefront 2, all of those were 2005 alone. And yet EA has just been like, nah, you'll get a game every couple years. And then you don't even know if it's good. Like, the first Battlefront is fine, but definitely incomplete. The second one started off as a broken loot mess. And then Rogue Squadron exists. Which is sad that Rogue Squadrons is probably the most, like, polished and well-made game that no one gives a crap about. Because...
Well, it's the skill ceiling is so high on it, unfortunately. Like, it's
and also, people... I don't think the general gaming population... There's obviously some people that do, but I think the general gaming population doesn't care about flight simulators. Like, they're like, it's super accurate. It is an accurate flight simulator. It felt just like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter from when I played it as a kid. Did it hold my attention for more than 2 hours? No, not really. Which sucks, but I'm excited for the future now.
Well, and like all of those other games, that's not to even speak about like Knights of the Old Republic, both the game and the MMO, or
the remake
Jedi
coming.
Academy. Yeah, the remake that's coming, Jedi Academy, which that was I think it was PC only, but
no, that's available on the PlayStation Store.
Well, it is now.
Oh, okay,
not when it came out. Which seriously, I have so many great memories with that game, and I'm just imagining being able to do a Jedi Academy style game these days, where every single part of your character, down from your lightsaber color to your boots, is all customizable, and you get thrown in with ability. I think with Fallen Order, it has opened the door finally, especially with a new studio picking stuff up, open the door to like different kinds of Star Wars content, not just like, well, you get your class-based shooter or your single player mode. So have fun. So I'm just excited.
As per usual, this episode is sponsored by TeePublic, your one-stop shop for all things Uncharted Media merch. You can get shirts, hoodies, notebooks, stickers, whatever your heart desires. You got 5 fantastic designs for you to choose from. So if you want to support the show, go to Uncharted Media, check us out there, get some cool merch. Now, let's have some multiversal fun, shall we? So, again, we want to have some fun with this of... If there's a multiverse out there that the entire MCU was replaced with DCEU actors, who would be what? So our only real requirements for this is we had to cast at least the main core Avengers And then if we could think of like some other supporting ones, we could throw that on the list. So Josh and I may have some different ones, but by and large, the ones that we know for a fact, we have the core Avengers from the first movie and then sporadic ones from there. This started off hard, but then I got in a groove, and I think, Josh, you said you kind of had the same experience?
Yeah. It was I think the hardest ones for me were Cap and Iron Man. Because Chris and Robert have really embodied those characters so much, it's really hard to imagine somebody else doing them. Those were the hardest ones, so I had to come at the characters from a very specific point of view in order to make them work. And oddly enough, I'm going to be straight with you, Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are not on this list at all.
I kind of had to force Ben Affleck. I had Henry Cavill into something because it did take me a very long time. I also do not have Ben Affleck in here. I'm like, could I see him as Thanos? No, I really can't. Ben Affleck as the Collector, just to see him with the crazy hair and just.
Yeah,
but Henry Cavill, I eventually did find him something. But yeah, you're right. I'm just like they're so unique.
They're so like unique, and I think that was even like when it came down to someone like and it's something I hadn't considered before. When you're casting someone for Hulk / Bruce Banner, is different than what, and this seems like obvious when I say it, but is different from when you're casting someone like Iron Man or Hawkeye or Thor. It's a very like not just personality and acting style and stuff like that, but also height, how their face looks, what kind of energy do they give off. So it was a little bit more difficult than I anticipated, but yeah, once we got in the groove of it, I was like, okay, yeah, you can go there, you can go there, you can go there. All right, cool.
Yeah, so we'll probably save the core ones for last, just because like that's what everyone knows. Yeah, some of them came super easy, almost at times too easy, and then others I'm like, oh, I'm gonna think outside the box on this one. We will also say, at least for me, I do have some characters that were already MCU characters, but you have certain actors that have been both in the MCU and the DCEU, so those MCU characters are fair game because they've been in both. So it's not like, well, you're cheating because they were already in the MCU. I'm like, they were also in the DCEU, so they work too. So,
and just to be clear here, we're using the shows as well, correct?
Yeah, DCEU shows. So Peacemaker's fair game.
Cool.
I think that's it for shows.
Well, Doom Patrol and Titans.
Nope, don't count.
Oh wow. Okay. Uh-oh.
Are you screwed? We can include if it really screws you over that much, we can include Titans and Doom Patrol. But I was thinking of like the main continuity.
Yeah, I got some people from CW as well.
Oh
no! No, honestly, at least one of them I like a lot.
Okay,
but, like,
so
also,
then that'll at least make our list different
then the Christopher Nolan films are fair game as well.
That has never been fair game. Dude, I approached this wondering if Joker would be fair game or not. But I don't have Joker. Well, Josh can include it. Josh can include it.
No,
I almost put Joaquin Phoenix as Doctor Strange because so many people want that for some reason, and it almost happened. But I didn't know if Joker should be canon. But we'll include it for Josh because, like we said at the beginning, it's hard to cast main characters when you only have like 8 or 9 movies to work from.
Yeah,
they just have to be DC.
Yeah, they just have to be from DC. So like I have the shows, so like Edge of Tomorrow, Arrow, and but I'm pulling people.
What's Edge of Tomorrow? How is Edge of Tomorrow?
Not Edge of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow.
I'm
right?
Going, Edge of Tomorrow is not DC even remotely.
Like, okay, see, but like, what was weird was on this list, I was like, all right, so let's just see if there's a comprehensive list of everybody that's been in a movie for DC.
Wikipedia.
And like, they were including ones from like from like Constantine and Legion and like stuff like that. And I was like, oh guys, chill. We're going a little deep down the rabbit hole there. Chill. So it was a little hard on that, but yeah, okay, fine.
Okay.
You know what? We're just including everything. I don't care.
Okay, so I got three. I only have
list.
3 villains actually. How many villains do you have, Josh?
Have one. I didn't care. To do. Actually, that's not true. I can add one. I took it off because I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I'll add it just for you.
I have 3 just because I don't know. They just kind of randomly came to me. I'm just like, oh yeah, these matches are too perfect. Who's your one there?
Loki. I had Cillian Murphy being Loki.
Okay.
Yeah, Loki was really hard because like I also have like Jared Leto or Patrick Wilson on that list to be Loki as well. Like if as far as like because like that was some on my list as I just like threw certain names where I thought they'd be and then picked which one I liked the most for that. And out of those 3, Cillian Murphy feels pretty cool. It's definitely wouldn't be Tom Hiddleston as his form of Loki. Probably be something closer to like a Scarecrow kind of Loki. And I
wonder why.
Yeah, but like also I just think if you're looking, Loki was hard because you can't have a big buff dude be Loki. Like no. You can't like so like and there's not a lot of like scrawny, suave guys in the DCEU as so it was just,
as Snyder is very aesthetically driven.
He is, and gosh, that was noticeable when looking at casts.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Too bad we're not doing like recasting the actual MCU with non-canon MCU because I would recast Loki with David Tennant.
Yeah.
Sorry, people. Netflix shows aren't canon. I know they'd be like, well, Daredevil and Kingpin. Pretty sure they're variants. I mean, I could be wrong one day, but so like I said, I got 3 villains.
Yeah.
Hela from Thor Ragnarok.
Oh.
I would do Gal Gadot. I think that stands out.
Yeah.
Then I know these characters are very similar anyway, but I don't care. Crossbones from Winter Soldier and Civil War, played by Deathstroke's Joe Manganiello.
Okay, I can see that, yeah.
And then the one that I'm actually kind of mad doesn't exist, as much as I love the original actor in the role, Mysterio, played by Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm so down with that. The only other villain I had that I'd taken off my list at one point was Ultron. I have being played by Jeremy Irons.
Oh, that would have been so much better than stupid James Spader.
Like, I just like imagine him like getting at the tail end of a speech and like yelling at like straight up, just it just would be so much better. Gosh, dude.
Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa.
Mufasa.
I would just see that. So yeah,
who do you have for your Phil Collins? Phil Coulson. Coulson.
No, if I was to recast Phil Collins for the MCU, I'd get Terry Collins, the former manager of the New York Mets, because he always... Josh, Google Terry Collins for the New York Mets and tell me he doesn't look like Phil Collins, at least a little bit. I don't have a Phil Coulson, but if I had to think off the top of my head... Oh, man. You gotta have somebody...
That's actually terrifying. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I know. If I had to pick a Coulson, maybe the guy that plays Vigilante on Peacemaker?
Maybe.
You need a little bit of dork in him?
Yeah. I have it as, I can never pronounce his last name. Tom Cavanagh, I think is how you pronounce it.
Kavanaugh. Tom Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Kavanaugh. Yeah. Sorry.
Ed.
He would be, like, he's got that, like, good balance of, like, dorky, but also, like, really, like, a really respectable dude, and, like, I want to be around him.
JD's older brother?
Yeah, exactly. So, it'd be cool.
Okay, so, yeah, we've got our core Avengers, we'll save for last, and then I have a lot of, I don't know if I want to call them legacy characters, but, like, post-Phase 1 characters. So, yeah. Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Winter Soldier, Falcon, Star-Lord, and Rocket. Any of those that you don't have that we should cover? Or do you want to just dive into those?
Okay, my other ones, I've got War Machine, Falcon, Pepper Potts, Bucky Barnes, Ant-Man, Black Panther, and Wanda.
All right. I hadn't considered some of those, primarily because in my perfect universe that this is, Pepper Potts doesn't exist, because, God, I hate Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts in the MCU. I think she's one of the biggest wasted opportunities and a waste of time this side of Natalie Portman's Jane Foster. I hate her character so much.
That's fair. I can't blame you on that, my dude.
Who do you have for Pepper Potts? That might be better than Gwyneth, you two.
Anna Diop. Or Diop, however you pronounce that. She plays Starfire on Titans.
Really?
Yes.
She's got to be a better Pepper Potts than she is a Starfire.
I just, first of all, I just thought it was fun. I didn't even intentionally do it, but like thinking about
the red hair,
the person that the hero that Pepper Potts becomes in Iron Man 3, and thinking that I just cast Starfire in that role is kind of funny to me. But didn't happen intentionally. I just felt like having someone younger, and once we get to Iron Man, we'll play off it a little bit. I did tend to go a little bit younger on my castings on certain ones.
Huh? I went older on a lot of them.
Interesting. So, but that's primarily one of them. Is I didn't want. I went younger because I didn't want Pepper to be a childhood friend of Tony's. I wanted her to be a hire from Tony's, and just they grow a friendship from there instead of a childhood friend. But there's that.
Let's see. You also had War Machine, right?
I didn't realize the.
Did you go with Will Smith?
I went with Ray Fisher. And I didn't realize the similarities until I read it.
So in one, he's in a metal suit, trapped for life, and the other one, he's in a metal suit. So one he can just leave, the other one he's trapped in forever.
Yeah. Okay. But in my brain, I went, okay.
That's probably why he made the correlation.
Yeah. If someone's gonna be in the War Machine suit, it's gonna be a younger. It's not gonna be, as much as I love Don Cheadle, it's gonna be a younger, healthier, more experienced soldier, and so that Ray Fisher kind of fits that. Whereas somebody like Falcon, who I have as being played by Will Smith, is going to be a little bit older, and is going to be like, hey, like I did my term, kind of like Sam. Like I think it worked just as well. He's got the charm, I think, that Falcon really likes, and eventually, I can totally see Will Smith being a black Captain America. I think that works well. I don't think I'm against that either.
Yeah, I go Will Smith for War Machine because I see that like stoicism occasionally, while also the snarky stuff. Whereas my Falcon is Black Manta's Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I think
I hear you.
I think he's got that like swagger. He does kind of give me Anthony Mackie vibes of confident and charming at the same time, but also I could absolutely see him stepping into the Black Captain America type of that leadership, but also never overwhelmed. And also I need him to kind of still be snarky like Anthony Mackie is, especially playing off my Winter Soldier, who we can talk about in a little bit here. But judging by your reaction, I think you have Yahya doing something later.
Yeah, well, I see him and I think of royalty. So I have him as Black Panther. Because
I could see it.
Yeah. Like, nothing against Chadwick Boseman. But having like he's pretty tall, man. He's like 6 foot something, 6'3". Actually I should probably look that up. I have that somewhere. I brought up everybody's IMDb pages because I was like, I want to make sure I get everybody right here and what they're from. He doesn't have his height. It's fine. But like, he just gives me like Wakanda vibes, and he just looks like he would absolutely murder somebody if he wasn't such a peaceful person. And I get that vibe at least from Manta.
So, if we're working off Falcon, and then you just said Black Panther, someone that has connection to both of them, would be the Winter Soldier. Do you have a Winter Soldier?
I do have a Bucky Barnes / Winter Soldier.
And that would be...
I don't think you're going to like it.
I don't think you'll like mine.
It's because he was actually surprisingly hard to also get somebody for. Because you don't want someone too old, but you don't want too young. And they need to have, like... I'm just, like, saying everything that casting directors already think about. So, I had two, and I picked one of them, obviously. The first one was Eastwood, sorry.
Oh, God, I forgot he was in the... I forgot he was in the first Suicide Squad, because I was so positive that he was playing Nightwing.
Yeah. He gives me good, like, real Bucky Barnes vibes, like,
yeah,
dude.
That's a good call.
Yeah, the one I also had was Stephen Amell.
Your favorite.
If his Casey Jones didn't exist, I think I'd be more about him being that. But
yeah, I hate his Casey
unfortunately,
too.
that exists, and he's kind of the same character and everything. Unfortunately, so I do kind of lean more on like a Scott Eastwood, Bucky Barnes. Oh, what do you have?
I completely forgot about Scott Eastwood. Here's the one that's like, what? But hear me out. For Winter Soldier, I have Henry Cavill. Because I could see that, like, big bull in China shop that we kind of get when we first meet him. Like, the clean cut, like, good old boy going off to war. Which we definitely have seen from Henry Cavill. But also, it's weird that, Winter Soldier, when we see him later, shows up as a long-haired loner. Almost like... some other Henry Cavill role that he's a long-haired loner that also has a little bit of sarcasm in him when he wants to. Specifically, Witcher, I get Winter Soldier vibes of that's just odd. Like,
yeah, I feel that.
I don't want to be here. I'm just here so I don't get fined in the in the words of that one NFL player, which is the greatest post-game conversation ever. Also, I felt like I had to get Henry Cavill in here somewhere, and I genuinely couldn't think of him anywhere else. Like, there's some roles that I tried, but I couldn't think of anything. Like Vision, I got nothing for Vision. I thought about it, but I'm just like, I can think of somebody for Jarvis, but not for Vision type of thing.
That was hard. I had, oh geez, what's his name? The guy that played Professor Lupin. I had
David Thewlis?
Yeah, I
played
had
Ares.
him in there. Yeah, I had him as Jarvis.
I did think about that.
And I don't mind him as Vision either, but I don't know. I have, and this is kind of, I'm starting to see some similarities in characters that I'm not really a fan of, which is why I casted some of these people. Cara Delevine. Yeah, as Wanda, and I realized that's because they have very
just because they do weird hand stuff.
Yeah, it was either that or Margot Robbie.
No, I had Margot Robbie saved for something else later.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about Margot being Wanda either.
Oh no,
I really didn't want her to be Black Widow either.
Nope, I have Margot Robbie as Captain Marvel instead.
Okay, I don't hate that.
I see that more because my top pick isn't in the DCEU either. With what is her name from Battlestar Galactica and your favorite Halloween movie, Katie Sackhoff. Katie Sackhoff would be my top pick for Captain Marvel, but not gonna happen, and we get stuck with Brie Larson instead. I will not apologize for disliking Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. It's just Marvel writes their characters so well, and they're always cast perfectly. But Captain Marvel, top to bottom, has been a misfire. And also people are like, it's because she's a woman. No, I don't mind Wanda, even if Wanda's definitely a villain right now. Like Black Widow, it's because the character's miscast, which is not normally the case for Marvel movies that are normally cast perfectly. Yeah. So, of the non-core Avengers, I got 3 left. Spider-Man, Star-Lord, and Rocket.
I have 1, and then I have a couple that were just for funsies. That are
I like funsies.
Not at all related to anything that's popped up in the current MCU yet. So I'll hit my one. You want me to go ahead and go through mine? I'll go ahead and
go for it.
All right. So Ant-Man, I have as my last kind of non-core. I have being played by Ludi Lin because it would be so much fun to have a younger Ant-Man that could definitely play off of Spider-Man a little bit more. Like, it's just, they could be best friends. I would love that so much. And personally, I feel it makes more sense for a younger kid to think it's a good idea to break into somebody's house for scientific stuff than it does for, like, an older dude.
Paul Rudd's not old. Paul
So
Rudd's in
anyway,
his 20s.
No, he's not. I love him, but no, he's not. But like literally, and I can just has that charisma and fun about him that I'm so totally down for. So my for funsies, you're gonna roll your eyes with Tom Hardy as Wolverine, but only if Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays Sabretooth. I would love to see both of those guys play off of each other. I have Henry Cavill, and these are the dream ones. I don't know.
Henry Cavill is Sabretooth.
Henry Cavill is Beast.
Okay.
It's something I hadn't considered. And
the voice fits perfectly. I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see it. And then the only Ben Affleck I have on here, I have him playing Cyclops. And I kind of like it. Like, if you clean shaven, like, I don't hate it. Because he could totally do, like you're the leader, but I kind of don't like you also.
The one I almost went with Ben Affleck, but I couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger on it, is Ben Affleck as Thunderbolt Ross in Civil War.
Jeez, yeah.
But he's just slightly too young for it. Like, I need that old grumpy general. Okay, so these last three before we get into our core Avengers, I'm actually kind of mad don't exist. I'm not saying the people that we don't have aren't perfect, but these are just as good. Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Jai Courtney, aka Captain Boomerang from Suicide Squad, because God, I just need the voice of Captain Boomerang to be Rocket. Also, for some reason it's popular to hate on Chris Pratt. If Marvel ever decides to recast Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, recast him with Zachary Levi from Shazam. Because
I'm down. Yeah.
They're just immature man babies that I love both. Also, I know some people are like, but Zachary Levi was already in the MCU. Yeah, he was in the MCU and died so hard that he jumped ship to DC because of Hela. And lastly, Tom Holland will always be my favorite Spider-Man until besides the PS4 version. Tom Holland is perfect Spider-Man, especially after No Way Home. But if we need someone from the DCEU, what about young Billy Batson, Asher Angel from Shazam? I
don't hate that, yeah.
I thought about the kid that plays Freddy, but I'm like, he's a little too dorky. Peter is dorky, while just a little bit handsome, not like the best looking kid. Looking at Asher Angel, I just see Peter Parker in that. I think he'd be a lot of fun. Although it's always kind of bothered me in the Shazam movie that young Billy Batson is actually more mature than superhero Billy Batson. Like, Zachary Levi might have been a little too goofy with it. Like, he becomes less mature when he's the superhero.
Yeah.
But let's get into the core group. The main Avengers, the ones that started it all. So we've got Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Nick Fury. Nick Fury actually was the first name that came to mind for me. That was like, I gotta go with this guy. And he was already in the MCU already. I don't care. I think he's better suited for this role than what he actually was in the MCU. Idris Elba, also known as Heimdall, also known as Bloodsport. I get authority vibes from Idris Elba. I believe him. You see him in control of a situation, but at the same time, you get that I don't really want to mess with you type vibes. And also, like, if we're continuing with the basing it off the comics, he kind of does look like he could pass as we couldn't get Samuel L. Jackson, so we went with someone slightly younger. Because Samuel L. Jackson's in his 70s, guys. I can't believe that. So if we wanted someone slightly younger, I think Idris Elba could definitely pass as a Nick Fury.
So something that happens in the comics is that Nick Fury is just kind of, it's like a 007. It's kind of past.
Oh God, you went with David Hasselhoff, didn't you?
So I have two names. I favor one, as always. First name, how cool would it be to see Viola Davis be like a Nick Fury type, just bossing everybody around? I don't hate it. I love it. I love it quite a bit. But the guy...
See, I would think it'd be too much like Amanda Waller.
It might be, and that's kind of why I shied away from it and went with my other pick, with Christopher Maloney.
What DC thing was he in?
He's a... Oh, jeez. He's in Man of Steel. He's one of the soul...
He is. A good death is its own reward.
Yes. So, because, God, dude, like, have you seen him in... what was that show where he's where he's psychotic and he has like a flying donkey that follows him around?
So not Special Victims Unit.
No, it's not.
I wish that was Special Victims Unit. He just rides up to a crime scene on a donkey.
No, it's like anyway, but he's like it feels weird to be like, I just feel like Nick Fury should be white. Like that doesn't matter. That is not a thing that needs to be in discussion. I had no problem with Samuel Jackson playing Nick Fury, because it's fine. He does a great job. I just like Christopher Maloney would be so cool, like being Nick Fury. He's intimidating. He's scary. I've seen him move in certain shows. The boy can go. So just like imagine like a Nick Fury that actually hand-to-hands people. Like, oh, that'd be cool. It'd be super cool.
Not gonna lie, whenever I see Christopher Maloney, I always think he kind of seems like a variant version of John Hamm. Like, we couldn't get John Hamm, we got Christopher Maloney. That works. It's fine. They both sound like meats. So you've got the Maloney on Hamm.
Christopher
Maloney on Hamm. Wow.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's gonna haunt my nightmares now.
Yeah, well.
Okay, my most like I don't feel like 100% of just like, oh, this has to be it. I could be convinced otherwise of this. Hulk. I couldn't think of a specific person for this. So you got to think the Bruce Banner side of this, because the Hulk, obviously, we're not going to get like a Lou Ferrigno situation again of just paying a bodybuilder and just send him off to have fun. That's why I want someone mild and sheepish. That's why I went with Shazam's Adam Brody, also known as the superhero version of Freddy, when he finally can fly and has legs and everything else. Also, he's been in a couple other things, but I kind of get younger Mark Ruffalo vibes from him, of like a little awkward in the quirky and endearing way, not like, the new girl version of I'm quirky, love me, go away, Zooey Deschanel. That's my weird tangent for the day. Enjoy that. Hulk I really could not pin down, just because Hulk in the MCU is kind of vanilla. He's kind of uninteresting, but at the same time you still like him because he's got some good lines. He plays off other characters well. He's a good accent piece to the other heroes, but as a character, Bruce Banner doesn't necessarily have the most personality, because the last time they tried to do that, it was Edward Norton. He kind of stole the whole project away from everyone else.
So it's really weird, because as soon as I saw this guy, this was actually the easiest one for me to cast. I was looking through pictures and I was like, yeah, that one right there. And when I tell you where he's from in the DCEU, you're gonna laugh. So there's this guy named Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, he's the guy with no legs in Batman vs. Superman.
He's the guy with no legs in Batman v Superman.
But Scoot, you ain't got no legs.
But he is so, like, look up a picture of him real quick, like, as a human being, not obviously in a wheelchair. But he, like, to me, just exudes like this, like a Bruce Banner-esque feel to him. He's like, he looks like he could be very smart, but he definitely looks like he's got some weight on his shoulders. Like, it would be really, really fun. And he's kind of like Mark, and I might get shot for this, but he's not as well known.
He definitely isn't.
And as comparison to somebody like, say, Chris Hemsworth or something like that, So that could be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. Who do you want to tackle next?
Can we get Thor out of the way?
This is the only one that I feel like we might have the same person
Yeah.
for. I tried not to get this guy, but I just couldn't get away from it. It's just too easy. Let's say it together. 3, 2, 1. Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
Like
it's just not. I can't.
Come on,
it's
see too easy.
Else. It is.
I tried not to, but it's just lame. It's right there.
It just worked. It just fit too well, and like
my man, my brother,
Loki. Like that sounds like such like great Thor vibes. Like God, I just you can't get any better.
But also,
than that.
like we've seen him be regal when he finally adopts the Aquaman King of Atlantis thing. We've seen him with the heartfelt moments. Like one of my favorite scenes in any of the Zack Snyder movies is actually when they're in the Batcave and he's just like, it's not right. Took this kid away from his family. He's got nothing left. His dad just died. I thought you said he didn't care. I never said that. And you're like, he does have a heart. Like that's good. Like Jason Momoa is just a phenomenal actor nonetheless. He fits too well in this role.
Yeah.
Like I really need Chris Hemsworth. I need Chris Hemsworth and Jason Momoa to do a movie together. They do the remake of Twins.
Oh my gosh. I just and I felt bad. I think the main reason I felt bad was because I felt like I was typecasting him. But it just works.
It
so
fits too well.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got next?
Let's do everyone's favorite Avenger, Hawkeye. Which I still don't think Hawkeye deserves the indifference that people give him, considering one, Hawkeye's show on Disney Plus is still the best Marvel show on Disney Plus. Come at me, WandaVision fans. Because Hawkeye doesn't have a disappointing end and it's actually consistently entertaining, doesn't have peaks and valleys. Hawkeye was another one that I almost immediately got right off the bat. Idris Elba's Nick Fury was the first one, and then my Hawkeye, played by Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad's Joel Kinnaman, also known as Rick Flag.
Interesting.
Because I see him, Rick Flag as a character, has some of the sarcasm, but also has that just, I'm over it and I'm tired of babysitting children type of mentality. And Hawkeye in the MCU and in the comics is very much just like I'll get this done, but I don't really want to. I just want to go home and ice my knees type of thing. And I kind of get that vibe from Kinnaman of just being over it. But at the same time, he's got his really good sassy moments, especially in the Suicide Squad. That I was like, yeah, I see you as Hawkeye. I could see the mileage on you. And I mean that in the best possible way for Kinnaman.
All right. I hear you. I see what you're sticking. You got. My Hawkeye, I'm going with Wentworth Miller, for kind of the same reasons. You look confused. You good, buddy?
Yeah, for some reason I just heard something. We're good, I think.
Okay, no, because Wentworth Miller is just I don't know how to describe it. I saw him, and like you kind of said with Joel Kinnaman, he looks like he looks like he's seen some stuff, and he just always has that look on his face of I am done with everyone. I'm here because Natasha asked me to, and so I'm here for her. That just I get that vibe from Wentworth Miller.
So you brought up Natasha. Who do you have as your Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow?
So she's actually probably the youngest on this cast. I have Connor Leslie. She plays Donna Troy on Titans.
Honestly, Donna Troy is my favorite character of Titans. And this is coming from a Nightwing fan, primarily because Connor Leslie's performance is the only one that I actually buy. She seems like the only character on Titans that feels comfortable with the script. Mm-hmm. She has this natural charisma and personality that I just love. I love Connor Leslie on Titans, and I'm so glad she's not, dead. My only gripe about her is I wish she was Batgirl instead of the actual Barbara Gordon that they cast, because I wasn't a huge fan of the Barbara Gordon representation on Titans. I was like, oh,
nah,
you don't really come across like Barbara Gordon. And also the fact that they're just like, nah, she was never Batgirl. She was a jewel thief, and going, what? No, that's not how it
No.
works. But dude, you say anything Connor Leslie, I'm just going, yes. Just yes.
It just works, man. I don't know what it is. It just works. And like because I have Wentworth Miller, he's obviously an older assassin, and so there can be more of a brother sister vibe there. Whereas like because because Jeremy Renner and Scarlett seem to kind of be in the same age. There are times when you're like, whoa, was there ever a thing? And I just want to eliminate that completely. I don't want to have to deal with that dynamic in the background.
So I went with someone that's more recent to the DCEU, both actually in movies and TV, but kind of might still be the same age as Joel Kinnaman. I'm not sure how old he is. And that is The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker's Jennifer Holland, also known as Harcourt, the blonde agent in charge of looking after Peacemaker.
Yeah.
I think she's got physical resemblance to Scarlett Johansson. She already kind of has that Black Widow-esque vibe to her of take no crap, give all the craps type of situation, of always has the upper hand. Whenever Peacemaker or any of the guys at the bar try and hit on her, she just immediately beats the ever-living crap out of all of them. I just get Black Widow vibes from her, and I could absolutely see it, and she's really impressed me so far in Peacemaker. Granted, she wasn't a huge role in The Suicide Squad, but I really like what they're doing with her on the show. I like all the characters on Peacemaker, but I think she would be a really good Black Widow.
Yep, I'm with you. So I don't know about you, but these two were the hardest for me to cast.
One was, one wasn't.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Captain America was my difficult one. Iron Man was my easy one.
Okay, that's fair. Who do you have for Iron Man?
Iron Man, judge him on his good performances and not for this movie. Wonder Woman 1984's Pedro Pascal.
Oh, wow, okay.
You forgot about Pedro Pascal, right?
I kind of did, yeah.
And I was joking with Heather. I didn't intentionally do this, but it's funny that Pedro Pascal, a man known for his facial hair and wearing an iron mask, should be good as Iron Man. But I'm going, he's been in Narcos. He's got that like morally gray area, but also he's been really funny. He's going to be in that Nicolas Cage comedy, so he can do the comedic beats. I just buy him as a dude that can be cocky, but also emotionally vulnerable. He was an overly cocky character in Game of Thrones. He can be cocky, he can be charming, like we've seen, but also when he's in the Iron Man suit, we know he can do plenty of acting with just his voice alone. I really love Pedro Pascal as an actor, and I could absolutely see him being Tony Stark.
I'm down with that. Absolutely. I have no issues with that at all. I hadn't thought. For some reason I forgot about that. Forgot about him. Yeah. Interesting. I have the guy who was only at the DCEU for maybe 5 minutes. The man who played quote unquote Jimmy Olsen.
I thought you were about to say the guy that played Slipknot.
No, I wouldn't do that. Michael Cassidy. I thought he's the one that played Vigilante for a little bit until I looked up his IMDb. But gosh, he's a handsome dude. Everything I've seen him in, I have enjoyed his presence. He seems like a guy that can do suave, that can do emotional vulnerability, but also I feel like him being and looking younger gives him more of something to prove than say Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark does. Tony Stark has something to prove because he puts himself in that position. Whereas if you had somebody younger like Michael Cassidy play that character, I feel like it would feel more like he less of the things that happen to the Avengers would be his fault.
Now, who is our last one? Who is your Captain America?
So I have two names that I floated around, and primarily just because I love both these guys, especially after certain movies they've been in. But Alan Richardson I thought about. He plays Hawk on the Titans.
Yes.
he's pretty good.
Also,
great act.
he was Aquaman in Smallville.
Also true, which is a weird thing to think about too. Real good guy, great presence, great charisma, can do sassy, can do emotional. I do think he might be a little too CW-y, unfortunately. So I ended up going with Joel Kinnaman.
Really?
I see this Captain America in that while he is a great guy and has a good center his moral compass is hardcore, I do see Captain America as when he doesn't have PTSD from coming out of the iceberg. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, that I feel would be a big shock to him. And I feel like Cole Kinnaman, oh my goodness.
Cole Kinnaman.
Oh my gosh. Could really, like, portray that. And he's got a good swagger to him. He can be sassy. Language. He can be commanding. Gee, like, I think if Suicide Squad by James Gunn had not happened, Joel Kinnaman wouldn't be nowhere on this list. But he is so good in Suicide Squad. Like, that's just a character I can totally see him being. The leader, then this guy that is the moral compass of everybody, and is not afraid to smack you up the side of the head to get you going right.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a kind of an unconventional pick, but the more I thought about it, it just fits too well. Aquaman's Patrick Wilson, Orm.
Okay, yeah. I thought about that too.
I think it's funny, and it's absolutely intentional, I think, on James Wan's part, of when you see Patrick Wilson, he almost looks exactly like a comic book version of Aquaman, of the short blonde hair, the good all-American Caucasian look to him, which fits, I think, perfectly with Captain America. But we've seen him be the good guy. Really like him in the Conjuring movies, just as a all-around good guy. But at the same time, we've seen him in other roles where he's got that kind of... As much as I love Captain America, sometimes in the comics, Captain America can be a bit of an all-American douche. And we've seen that from Patrick Wilson, especially because we don't talk about this movie enough, when he's the bad guy in the A-Team. When he's Lynch, I could see him being a government stooge. Like, I'm not saying Captain America is, but in terms of, like, blind loyalty and patriotism that Captain America sometimes has, I can absolutely see that from Patrick Wilson. Also, just that all-American look that he's got of the blonde hair, blue eyes, good old boy. But I can also see him exuding leadership, clearly from Aquaman and Aquaman 2. Dude is jacked out of his mind, and he's still kind of pissed that they didn't showcase that more. Because if he thought he was hiding under a lot of padding, you're not the only one. He hated that too, because dude is actually shredded, and they for some reason hid that in Aquaman. I think he'd be a great choice, unconventional choice, but sticking with our parameters, I think... In the world of DC, I think he'd be a great one to, in a multiverse world out there, to be a really decent Captain America.
Yeah, and that was one of the things. I don't hate any of my picks. It was definitely hard on a couple times to be like, okay, this character. When it came to Captain America and Iron Man, it was like these guys are kind of complex, and if they're playing the roles in the MCU that Kevin Feige has dictated, then they've got to be very specific in how they operate and act. And I don't hate any of our casting. I think what will be really interesting is when eventually we do the use MCU cast members to fill DCEU
send it back the other way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll be easier or harder.
Harder. I think it'll be harder.
I think there's a lot of more people we can work with. But casting a Superman or a Batman might be difficult. But what do you guys think? If it was up to you and we lived in a weird multiverse and you had to cast DC actors to show up in Marvel movies, Who are you picking and why? Let us know in the comments below. We always like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube at Uncharted Media. We're trying to get to 700 subscribers before the end of the year. You can help us get there. Share us with other movie friends that you got. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.